Everyone. Today, we are continuing our series on student mental health with Senior Associate Commissioner at the Big East Conference, Katie Willet. Katie, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Sydney.
We have so many student athletes on the podcast all the time, and we talk about student athlete issues. But I think what's really important is kind of demystifying all the aspects of student athlete life. And so it's really awesome having someone from a conference come and talk to athletes today. Let's just get started talking about your role at the Big East and why you're there.
Great. Yeah. And, we're excited to be able to have this conversation with you because mental health is a key component of a student athlete's experience and a primary focus at the Big East for us, and has been for a number of years. In terms of my role at the Big East, I oversee our student athlete development area, which encompasses things like the Student Athlete Advisory Committee, our academic side, the compliance governance, so a little bit of everything there. We do annually a Student Athlete Wellbeing Forum. And every year it has a different focus, but a component of it is always mental health. And we started this 8 years ago at the push really of our student athletes. We talk to them through our conference SAC about what are your priority areas? What are some things that are on campus you really wish there was more attention to? And again, this was 8 years ago, and the first thing they said was mental health. Ever since then, it has remained a priority area for us, not only at the conference office, but also on our campuses.
I think the next thing to ask, we've talked so much on the show and just in general, if you're in a student athlete, you see it all the time about a mental health crisis for student athletes. You said that student athletes came to you 8 years ago asking for help in that area. What have you learned in your role throughout those last 8 years about student athlete mental health?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, the resilience of our student athletes. I think they have created a culture where it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to talk about it and to ask for help. And reflecting back to our first wellbeing forum that we did, it was all about destigmatizing mental health and being able to have a conversation about it. To this year, our focus shifted with our student athletes wanting to emphasize the importance of the mental health of their coaches and the administrators. For the coaches to be at their best, they needed to also focus on their mental health so that they could provide support to their student athletes. So I think, I really do credit our student athletes with the leadership role they've taken on campus and at the conference level to prioritize mental health and to make sure that we continue as a league to prioritize mental health.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's really cool, specifically how at the conference level, this is something that's being discussed because while, of course, it can feel like, as an athlete, it's just you, and then it just feels like your team, and then maybe your program, really having it be something across the Big East is really powerful. What do you think of the Big East's role in, kind of supporting student athletes or influencing how schools are taking that job for their athletes?
Yeah, I think for us, it is about supporting our institutions and our student athletes. We know that our schools are providing the appropriate resources and support for our student athletes, and we just want to promote what it is that they're doing and to help supplement wherever we can. We have a partnership right now with the Zone, which a number of our schools are using to help supplement what they're doing already on campus. But it's something for us that we just want to make sure our schools feel supported, that our student athletes have the resources that they need so that they are receiving the best experience possible as a Big East student athlete.
As important as mental health is just individually, I think as well, talking about the impact that it has on athletes and therefore on schools is also really important. Right now, there's a changing landscape of college athletics, which is really honestly leaning more towards the student athlete experience and pushing for what they want and what they need. And at this point, something like mental health resources and, tons of other resources is something that schools are required to do to keep their competitive advantage beyond just doing what's right. How has that impacted your conversations over the last couple of years?
Yeah, significantly. I think, as you said, the changing landscape of college athletics right now is something we've never seen before, and, probably something we couldn't have predicted. I think for our student athletes, there's a lot of pressure. I know, social media itself is something that creates a lot of anxiety for student athletes. It puts a lot of pressure on them to always display what the image that people want to see, not always necessarily their true self. So I think that's a piece of it. Just how college athletics is operating with the transfer portal, the number of student athletes that are transferring, name, image, likeness pressure. So there's just a lot of elements within the environment in college athletics that is creating pressure and stress. And a byproduct of that is, impacting their mental health. And so it's got to be a priority for us.
Well, if you are a student interested in getting more resources at your school, or an administrator looking to make a big jump, I'll include that NCAA guide and a link to the zone for you to learn more about how you can be supporting your student athletes or your peers. Thank you for coming on the show today, Katie. Hey guys, it's Sydney. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Let's Talk About It. If you did, make sure to leave a review and send it to a friend. Let's keep this conversation going. I'll see you guys next week.